The views expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome back to this edition of Insights, everybody. I'm your host, Marissa McKay, and today we will be talking about March as Nutrition Month. It is a national initiative, and here to localize this for us are a few dietitians from the ARMC. First joining me is Cheryl Bates. Hi, Cheryl. Thanks for joining me.
Hello.
All right, so Cheryl, first tell me, why is nutrition important? I know that's kind of a big question, but this is your job, so I think you can kind of break it down for us.
Right. Well, Nutrition Month is something that's been happening for many, many years, and it's just an annual awareness that nutrition matters. When we think about nutrition, I think there's more and more awareness that what we eat makes a difference in how we feel, how we look, prevention of disease, and that kind of thing. And really, when we look at the top causes of death in our society, the top three have a very strong nutrition component. So those three leading causes of death would be heart disease, cancer, and stroke. And all three have a very, very major nutrition component.
And I don't think a lot of people really think about that as much. I think that that's something, especially with the older generations, you know, food labels and calorie intake and all of that stuff wasn't so big with my grandparents. But why do you think it's so important to kind of reinstate that in an educational way now?
I think that as we learn more and more about nutrition, we're learning that it makes a difference. Way back with Hippocrates in BC, he realized that nutrition was important. He considered the food we eat to be our medicine. Thomas Edison realized the same thing a little more recently, but still a long time ago. And as we do more and more research in the nutrition world, we're discovering that nutrition makes a huge difference for the prevention and management and treatment of disease.
Okay, and then for a day-to-day sort of aspect to nutrition, how does it affect our bodies?
Well, nutrition, what it does is we have to recognize that it really has a cumulative effect on our body. What we put in our mouth from really preconception until today has a cumulative effect on our body. And when we recognize that that's a very important thing, then all of a sudden it's just not a matter of we're eating because we're hungry, oh, and now we're full, so we can stop eating. It really matters. We think about the nutrients that are going into our body and what benefit they're having to our body. When we think about healthy foods, the best foods we can eat are the ones that are going to promote growth, promote maintenance of our body, and promote health overall. Our bodies are constantly regenerating themselves day after day after day, and so we have to provide our body then with the nutrients that it needs to regenerate itself in a healthy way.
So really making the difference between a slice of pizza and a salad is so much more than time, or it's easier to go grab a slice of pizza than make a salad, or cost also. It really has a lot bigger of an effect.
It does, and somewhere along the line, I think it happened over time. The 1970s was a particularly important time when suddenly Americans wanted their food cheap. And then maybe going back a little bit to the 1950s, that's when Americans wanted their food quickly with the advent of fast food. And so over the years, over the decades, we've kind of gotten into the idea that our food, first of all, needs to be inexpensive, and that it needs to take very little time to prepare and consume. Right now we love things that fit in one hand, and we can eat while we're driving or talking on the phone or doing anything else.
And pop it in the microwave for your kids or just something like that.
So now what we have to do is kind of come back, recognize that what we eat matters, that healthy food does have a benefit, and then maybe be willing to spend a little bit more money and spend a little bit more time preparing and eating the food.
And I think later in the show we'll kind of talk about some ways to be prepared so that it's not something that you're just, all of a sudden I'm spending $100 more a week in groceries, that it's something people can budget out and really make an effort to do as a family.
Right. It's a matter of concentrating not so much on the foods that you're going to avoid or even the food behaviors that you're going to avoid, but focusing first and foremost on what can I eat, what can I plan for that's going to have a benefit to my body.
Okay, and now you mentioned earlier too that the governor has actually kind of taken it upon himself to really, as a state, move forward in a healthy way. So talk a little bit about his 4x4 plan.
So Governor Rick Snyder has this health and wellness initiative that actually started this January, and he's focusing on 4 components of that. The first one is a healthy diet. The second one is physical activity and exercise. The third one is getting an annual physical exam. And then the fourth one is stopping smoking and avoiding smoke exposure.
Okay.
And so I think all those things tie together. When we talk about nutrition, we really can't leave out any of those other components. And so it's a nice program that he's put together, and it's really a media campaign to, again, increase awareness to the people of Michigan that health matters. You know, in our society, the healthcare dollar is getting higher and higher and higher, and these chronic diseases that I've talked about really contribute to the expense of that it's costing our state and really our nation.
Right, and I think now that the summer months are coming up, it's cheap and easy for people to go out and get some physical exercise and to really kind of live a healthier lifestyle in the warmer weather. People want to be outside. So we can talk a little bit about more that later in our show as well.
Very good.
Okay, and then finally, I just want to go over really quick what the theme of this year's nutritional month is, because I remember you had said that there were some different themes that they've done over the years. There
are, and this year the theme is Eat Right, Your Way, Every Day. And so really there's three components to it, but it's one idea that yes, we need to eat right. There are different ways to eat right depending on who you are, and then to do that every day. It's something that's really a part of life. The word diet comes from the Greek word dieta, which means way of life. So really the way we eat is our way of life. It's not something we do for 3 weeks or 6 weeks.
Right, not a fad kind of thing.
Right, it's something that we develop over time, and it's something that, again, starts when we're young and continues every single day of our life.
Right, and I think too the aspect of that theme that really should hit home for a lot of people is that you can customize this plan. It's not as if there's specific guidelines that everybody must follow. And I think that for some people, the dieting and the exercise routines, it's kind of a handed down list of this is what you should be doing.
Exactly.
Whereas this is a little bit different, and people can kind of fit that to their lives.
Right, and that's where the expertise of a nutritional professional comes in, because they recognize that everyone is different. Everyone will benefit from a different way of eating that can still be healthy and promote health and growth.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Cheryl, for being here. Everybody, Cheryl will join us at the end of our show, but next we will hear from another registered dietitian from the ARMC about the Eat Right Your Way every day. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Now joining me to talk more about this month's theme for March's Nutrition Month is Melissa Tolan-Halleck, Community Outreach Education Coordinator from the ARMC and a registered dietitian. How are you, Melissa?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, so we've talked, people have seen you on TV before, kind of talking about healthy eating, healthy lifestyles. And I think one thing we've talked a lot about has been this 5210 program. And I think that fits in perfectly with Eating Right Your Way every day. So do you want to explain that a little bit to our viewers?
Yeah, it does fit in. It fits in because the whole, the philosophy behind 5210 is that it is very, it's flexible. It is something that all families can do, children can do it, adults can do it. It really is meant to be a family approach, and it's meant to be something we are aware of and think about every day. And as far as it gives the message of increasing fruits and vegetables, decreasing our screen time, increasing our physical activity, and watching how much sugared beverages we drink, which is ultimately our caloric intake. So it really does help with that whole message.
Okay, Melissa, so why is this more of a family thing? Why can't it just be, you know, dad needs to lose a few pounds or needs to, you know, bring his cholesterol down? Why do you think it's so important that the entire family is really participating together?
Well, when we're talking about nutrition and wellness, we're talking about something that is sustainable. We're talking about something that the family can do together. And if it's not the whole family, if it's just one individual person, then it really isn't. It's not going to be practiced every day. It's not going to be practiced every meal, and it's something that it needs to be integrated. And if it's integrated into the family and into the community, and that's really what our approach is. You had asked me earlier about the 5210, and that's our approach with 5210 is to integrate it. And when it's integrated, then it's more likely to be given consideration. It's more likely to be given importance.
And kind of thought about on a regular basis, not pushed off.
And that 5210 message is something that you can think about, and it's flashy, it's catchy, and we're hoping that that's how it works in our community. It has worked in other communities nationwide, and that's one of the reasons we brought it here, is that it's a nationwide research-based program. So it does fit into the whole Nutrition Month theme of eating right every day, and
eating your way.
Your way, making it personalized.
Okay, and so going into the eating right component, I mean, you are a dietitian, so what do you think are some ways, easy ways, that somebody can kind of start maybe eating a little bit healthier? And I think I've heard the term clean eating passed around, but I don't think everybody really knows what that means.
Yeah, that is a catchy term right now, and you hear it a lot. It's a trendy term, but it means a lot. And the meaning that I like to describe clean eating really is looking at the foods we're eating and looking at the nutrients, the foods that we're eating, and the things that it can give to us. I always say to people, I say, if there's one thing, if your physician said you could take a pill that would do all these wonderful things and increase your stamina, your hair would look better, your
vision.
wouldn't get vision, all these things, if it did all these things, we would take that with no negative side effects. So why don't we eat those foods? Because really what that magic pill is fruits and vegetables. So one way that we can start doing that is by eating fruits and vegetables and by paying attention to the nutrient foods that we're eating. The clean eating means the foods that are whole, and it doesn't mean you can't cut up your potato and eat it that way, but it means that we're eating foods that don't have a lot of extras in them. And those extras are often what we refer to as empty calories or junk calories. And I have no problem calling them junk calories because that's really what they are, but that's okay because we all do that sometimes. Right. But the everyday is also in this message, and that's the whole idea there, is that we don't do this every day. We aim for clean eating. We don't eat junk and empty calories on an everyday basis. We really have to make it something that's sustainable. And
kind of like going back to Whole Foods, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. People always say that, and it seems like that's also part of this message as well. It is.
For instance, having juice versus a piece of fruit is not recommended. Having the whole fruit, you're getting the fiber, the vitamins. The fresher it is, the better. If you can get that, and I realize not everybody in northern Michigan can get a fresh apple on a daily basis, but as fresh as we can get is ideal, and without as many extras added to it. For instance, when you're talking extra calories, something that would, a piece of fried chicken has, 300 additional extra calories that are just junk calories. They don't give anything good to our body, but a piece of roasted chicken is only giving us nutritional value. Only nutrition is going into our body. So that's kind of the message there. Whole food or clean eating is trying to avoid those extras.
And that's easy to do, like you said, instead of frying the chicken, roast it in your oven instead of that. So that goes along with this whole lifestyle change that you've been talking about as well. So then what do you think are some ways also that somebody can, we've talked about eating right, we've talked about the clean eating, and then the your way aspect. What do you think people can kind of take home from that message?
Your way is really, and you would learn this when you come in to speak with a nutrition professional, a registered dietitian, we start with, what do you do now? What are you doing, and how can we make some changes? How can we tweak some things? Because ultimately that's how behavior change works. We don't come in and expect things just to happen, and we don't expect to give you all the guidelines that there are out there and say these are what you should put into place next week. It's baby steps, and if we don't do baby steps, then we're going to get what we always have gotten. And I've been using this statement a lot lately because I think it really just goes back to the basics. If we don't do something different, out of the ordinary, something that's a little bit of a challenge, then we're going to continue to get exactly what we get. And if you're okay with that, then that's okay. But most people, they aspire to have a little bit of change. They aspire to see something a little different in their life, whether it's more energy, whether it's a different weight, whether it's better blood sugar control. So I think we have to learn how to personalize it so that we can do that, so that we can see those outcomes.
Right. And next on our segment of Insights, we will actually have Melissa and Cheryl here together to discuss some ways that people can seek out a professional dietitian to help them move along in their process towards a healthier lifestyle and a healthier body. Stay tuned. Welcome back to this edition of Insights, everybody, where we are getting very much into the healthy lifestyle, the healthy spirit of the warmer weather. And joining me is Melissa Tolan-Halleck and Cheryl Bates. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So now we're going to talk about how people can seek professional help and how that can really get the entire family and themselves towards a healthier lifestyle, which is what you guys both do. So if you kind of want to take the floor and just explain a little bit about what kinds of services you offer to the community.
Well, at ARMC, we have clinical dietitians that can give you can consult with you on various health concerns. Various health concerns, chronic health conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and also food allergies. That's people have allergies, but also intolerances, and I think sometimes not knowing the difference can really make a difference in how you're eating. So that's intolerances and child issues with eating. There are professionals out there that can give you some insight on that, and so we do that often. In addition to that, we'll offer community seminars, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We have a seminar coming up, but various different things that we offer at the hospital, and I know throughout the community there's various nutrition topics that will be held we'll go out and do different discussions and talks and so on.
And Cheryl, and through your work at the college, what sorts of things do you guys do there?
Well, what I do is I basically teach an intro to nutrition class. And the students who take my class right now are people who are interested in nutrition, both from a personal level and from getting ready for their professional career as well. And what I like to suggest to people is if they have an interest in nutrition, get a good foundational understanding of what nutrition is, because we read so much in magazines and see it on the internet and see it on TV and in our newspaper, and people without a good foundation in nutrition really don't know how to evaluate that information.
Right.
And so this is a nice class. It's just an introduction to nutrition, and gives people a little framework so they can discern what's a good idea and what probably isn't such an effective or good idea.
And also just what something means as well. The clean eating thing, I didn't know what that meant for a while. I thought it meant I had to shop at Whole Foods, but clearly that's not the case. And also too, just going over caloric intake and the sugary drinks thing, I don't think people really understand maybe that their cup of coffee could really be a whole meal if you think about it, just in terms of how much cream and sugar they add to it in that way as well. So going over then what kinds of services people could seek out just if they see this episode of Insights and they're interested in moving forward, how would they go about contacting a dietitian?
You would talk to your primary care physician, ideally, and they would make a referral to the hospital.
Is it by referral only?
If you want it to be covered by insurance, they would need a referral.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that we won't see somebody and you can pay out of pocket. But by referral is how you'd get insurance to cover it, and with the new Affordable Care Act and some of the different insurances are looking at nutrition and wellness a little differently than they have in the past. And so we're seeing it covered a little bit more often than we used to in the past. And it really depends on your insurance. So I guess that could be your first step.
Right.
You may want to call and find out, is this a covered benefit?
Right.
And then your physician making a referral, which is a great way to do it, because then your physician and the dietitian
Kind of work
have that
together.
discussion, and they will, that's the best way to get your health care, really.
Okay, is really getting everybody involved instead of just kind of
Absolutely.
going and hearing some different things from different sources, essentially. Okay.
I would say another benefit of maybe visiting with a nutrition professional is dietitians are trained on how to decipher. You were speaking of the information that's on the internet, and dietitians are trained to decipher that and kind of muck through some of that, because there really is a lot. It's very overwhelming, and when you're trained to look at the science of it and then look at the behavior of it, the behavior change that goes along with that, that can help you kind of maneuver your way through a lot of information that's out there. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, sometimes that's a nice time to come in and just have that discussion.
Right. And I think, too, for some people, maybe the feeling of being overwhelmed kind of prevents them from taking that next step, because they're not really sure how to proceed or who to contact, or, will my insurance cover this, or is this going to be an expensive habit to get into?
Absolutely.
So now let's talk a little bit about community outreach, because that's definitely what you do at the hospital. And Cheryl, you clearly are involved in the community as well. What are maybe some free things that are coming up that people can kind of see if something they do want to dabble in, is just by getting a little bit of an overview?
Well, we do have actually coming up on Tuesday, March 19th. We are in the celebration of Nutrition Month. There are 4 dietitians, including Cheryl and I, that will be presenting kind of a community forum on why nutrition, why food, how does that play a role in the things that we do. And
Kind of like an offshoot of our discussion here.
Absolutely. So you'll get a little bit more detail, you'll get a little bit more overview, and you'll have 4 dietitians to have available for your questions. And so that is at the hospital, and that is going to be on Tuesday the 19th at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And
Health Resource Center?
Health Resource Center
Okay.
in the theater, yes.
Okay.
And they can call to register at 356-8124.
Okay.
Registration number.
And the pre-registration is required for people to attend?
It's
Or asked.
ideal. Just
to
so
kind of
we
expect.
make sure that we don't overfill the auditorium.
Right.
But it is
Right.
free, and it's just really a community service just to let people know kind of what dietitians do and how does food play a role.
And you mentioned that's a forum, so will there be opportunity for people to ask questions and to kind of maybe talk a little bit about, personally this is what I'm dealing with, and then also that opens up for maybe another member of the audience who didn't really want to ask the question to kind of
questions are always good.
Right.
Questions are always good, and if we need to have discussion afterwards or get more information to a person afterwards, that's also okay. But we will be happy to answer questions.
Okay, and then just going back a little bit to some tips and some benefits, just to kind of close out the show a little bit, what are some easy tips that you think people can kind of start implementing today if they wanted to live a little bit more of a healthier lifestyle, to do this Eat Right Your Way? If I looked in my fridge and I guess wanted to cook a clean meal, what could I do?
I think one of the main things, Melissa touched on it earlier, is think about what you're eating. That's a great first step. Rather than, I'm hungry, I'm just going to grab something and eat it, and now I'm not hungry. Think about what you're going to eat, plan ahead maybe a little bit, and then I would say in terms of a specific recommendation, if you're going to change one thing about the foods that you're choosing, it would be to add more fruits and vegetables into your diet. It's not so much take away things, although, you know, we encourage people not to eat too much salt, too much fat, too much sugar, but really a focus is to incorporate more positive things in your diet, and a great way to do that is just by eating more fruits and vegetables. That's a good first step.
Absolutely, and that goes parallel to the 5210, and that's why we chose that message, because it doesn't say take away, take away, take away. It says add fruits and vegetables. And when you do that, you're going to find that you do decrease your intake of other things, and you will have a difference in how you're feeling and so on. In the mindfulness, I think fruits and vegetables, and as Cheryl mentioned, mindfulness, and one way of doing that is a journal. And you could use anything for a journal, but there are many out there. If you go online and Google journal, there's a lot of choices. And ultimately what you're doing is you want to be able to evaluate and just identify, what do I do in a day? How do I feel about that? Okay, today's done. Now let's go on to tomorrow. Do I want to do something different, or am I okay with what today brought me? And that's ultimately what journaling's all about. You don't have to get into a lot of feelings, and you don't have to do, there's so much variance in journaling, but I think just starting, if you want something to change, we have to start.
Right, and kind of hold yourself accountable a little bit then as well. And it can just be a personal thing, like you said. If somebody doesn't want to tell another person their business or their health concerns, then they can kind of start doing that on their own at first.
It should never make you feel guilty, though. So journaling, if you're feeling guilty about a journal, that's not the purpose.
Okay, and then going forward too, just as a final statement, what else do you guys want to leave our audience with here, just in terms of March as Nutrition Month in general? What do you think is really the message and the importance behind that?
I would say that it's important to be mindful of what you're doing, but it's also important to not believe everything you read and you hear. You know, look into it. You know, look into your sources, and if you don't know, ask the questions. We have great professionals in this community, and we're available for those questions. But also to enjoy your food. You know, there's so many things telling us to avoid diets, and enjoy food. And if you're eating whole food, you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to feel good about it. So it's a double win.
Yeah.
It is. And another thing I would add to that is to go ahead and have someone evaluate what you do. Maybe it starts with your primary care physician, and you sit down and you evaluate your health status, or you sit down with your dietitian and you evaluate your diet. Evaluate things, and in that way you can kind of be honest with yourself. And it involves journaling, it involves all those steps, but to really be honest with yourself so that you see the outcomes that you're looking for in terms of you know, the healthy outcomes.
Right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I certainly learned some things, so I hope everybody else did as well. And as Melissa mentioned, next Tuesday you guys can definitely head over to the Health Resource Center and learn a little bit more about March as Nutrition Month. Thanks for watching.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.